Last night, the Global News British Columbia provincial election debate was a decisive victory for John Rusted and the BC Conservatives over Premier David Eby and the BC NDP. But don't take my word for it, just check the BC NDP's own social media. As you scroll through this, you can see them posting some clips from this debate, but they really don't post that many. And if you go through them, the ones they have posted are actually the same clips, some of them. This was not a good performance for David Eby. He was petulant the entire time. He talked down to people. He was smug and superior. They mostly only posted stuff like this, which was just text summations, the best possible summation of how a certain segment of the debate had gone for David Eby. The entire debate, if you watched it, and I encourage you to watch the full thing for yourself if you haven't, or you're skeptical if I'm only saying this because I am a conservative supporter. The entire debate, David Eby sat like this, terrible posture, staring at the person that he was debating on his left or right, whether he was looking at John Rusted or Sonia Furstenau. And I'm going to get to Sonia Furstenau later as well. I have a lot of people in the pundit class on social media saying that, oh, she was the clear debate winner, which I find is like the most typically Canadian thing to say, that the irrelevant third-party left-wing lady or Jagmeet Singh, the irrelevant left-wing guy, was the winner of the debate because they sounded very confident and strong in the utterly crazy garbage that they were saying. Again, I will get to that a little bit later. John Rusted won because he was the adult in the room. John Rusted is not a fiery speaker. He doesn't get extremely passionate and emotional when he speaks. And if anything, that's a big advantage because David Eby was adolescent the entire time. It was like being in a car ride between a parent and their teenage son, and their teenage son has become a left-wing, yappy socialist who won't let their parent actually finish a sentence before jumping in and trying to correct little things that they said that are absolutely technically, they're technically wrong, but the person's still absolutely correct. It was annoying to watch. And if you think that this is going to turn any moderate, undecided voters towards the NDP, like you're not watching the same debate as I am. I want to sort of cue up some clips here. It was just bad. Like, we'll start off with a couple of clips that I think really highlight just how bad the look was from David Eby. I'm going to be playing some clips from the BC Conservatives social media, but I'm going to be playing some from other accounts as well. This is a good general view of what the debate looked like and the sort of answers that John Rusted was giving.
In British Columbia, David Eby has had 7 years. And what has the results been? We have seen, for example, in Surrey, where people are being blackmailed and threatened on a regular basis. We're seeing gangs and gang activity happening at an extraordinary level, people being killed by these gangs. John, we have not seen any action that has actually taken anything. And David Eby, we have seen in some of these safe supply locations, we have actually seen people arrested and distributing drugs in those facilities. These sort of things need to be shut down when that happens. We have to have a zero tolerance policy for this type of an approach in British Columbia. He has done nothing. He has not even addressed the facilities where there was a problem like that. And the police had to go in and seize the drugs and arrest people.
Eby's just so bad. I guarantee even as I'm playing this clip, if you're watching it, not just listening along, you're probably staring at David Eby the entire time in a bad way. Like, what is this guy doing? He's restless. He cuts in. He cuts in with stuff that you can't even barely hear, just kind of because he's not facing the podium where his mic is. So he's just jabbering at David Eby, at John Rusted there, like he's a senile man who just walked into the debate and started talking over the television. It's so bad. I'm going to keep going and looking at more of these clips. I think they did a really good, also John, despite not being a fiery speaker, had really good moments, had really good lines that he got off during the debate. And the debate is always about the clips in the modern era. so many people don't actually watch the debate live. They consume the debate through the clips that are posted to social media. And the clips were not good for Eby. Even that clip, one of them that the NDP had shared, it was processed by Luke LeBrun from Press Progress, a Marxist rag, where he claimed that John Rustad had said something paternalistic about Indigenous people, acted like their children. No, he said that we want to create more opportunities for future generations on Indigenous land, and that every parent wants that for their kids in British Columbia. That's not paternalistic. That's literally describing a parent child relationship between Indigenous parents and their children. But oh my goodness, I guess John Rustad's a big old racist because we can reprocess all of his words into not even the worst interpretation, into a brand new sentence that was never said. But here's John Rustad getting off a line about safe supply drugs, or sorry, not safe supply drugs, although this would be implicate those, talking about plastic straws being banned, but drugs being okay.
We just need to get rid of the stuff that sucks in BC. Paper straws suck. I'm sorry, we've got to get rid of those. It doesn't work for people in BC. You know, there's a little meme I saw where there was 2 lines of white powder, supposedly cocaine, and a plastic straw, and the bottom sign said, one of these is illegal in BC. And that to me tells a great story in terms of David Eby's British Columbia.
No middle-class person is watching this debate thinking that, John, you're being simplistic. And that's the delivery that Eby had in response to John the entire time. Well, John, you don't know quite what you're talking about. Like, Eby, shut up. The problem is people think you're doing a bad job. And Eby couldn't admit to anything being bad in the province without broadening it out to, this has always been a problem in British Columbia. You never tell people that something that they know is a problem isn't that bad. And that's what Sonia would do too. The Green Party leader, who's supposed to, in theory, also be opposing David Eby, is there saying that John's like some capitalist fearmonger. And when I say it in that way, I'm being pretty serious that she actively was just the most openly socialistic person I've ever seen during a Canadian debate. Like, take a look at this where she says that LNG is worse than coal.
But under the NDP, we've gone from 0 LNG facilities to a potential of 7. We have a government that is all in on a fuel that is now proven to be worse than coal.
How? It has I think a third or a quarter of the emissions of coal. I don't know where she's getting this stuff from. I guess she thinks that we are going to propel this province to the future on the backs of farmers markets or whatever her Green Party plan is. She reminds me of the type of person who repeats this dumb line that we should be investing more in the education industry. That's not an industry, Sonia. She particularly looked a lot like Shelley Duvall during the debate. I think it was just her hairstyle particularly. Nice lady, probably, but I never understood I didn't understand why we saw so many pundits saying that, oh, wow, Furstenau did such a good job. Rob Shaw, I want to maybe go see if I can find this tweet from me because I thought it was a good way of putting it. But Rob Shaw, a reporter for the Orca and other, I think the Vancouver Sun as well, said that that Furstenau won the debate despite the fact that she said stuff like that and also condemned resource development because it was part of the boom bust economic cycle, because I guess her plan is just to bust all the time so that there's no technically boom bust because it's always just a big flat line. He said that she did well. She was just sanctimonious the entire time. She had nothing substantial to say. She had nothing to add to the debate. It felt like we had 2 people actually debating, and then some random lady entered the area and just said, why aren't you guys taxing rich people more? But Rob Shaw then said that Rustad was the loser of the debate. I don't know what debate he's watching. Rustad did pretty good. And overall, he did way better in contrast to how bad David Eby was, who Rob Shaw had classified as the debate meh candidate. That Eby just had a meh performance. He had the performance that everyone was staring at. For bad reasons, people were staring at how David Eby was doing, because it was weird. His debate performance was very odd, and you got the impression that David Eby thinks he's smarter than you in a toxic way. Not because he is smart, but just because he thinks it. Anyways, I actually have to throw in my charger here. For some reason, I didn't notice my laptop was about to run out of power. But I want to get back to some more of these clips. Okay, and I am back. Maybe let's watch some more of these clips because I think they're quite good. Here's another one where it's David Eby and John Rustad on the split screen, and Eby looking absolutely lost on stage, and John just saying things that everyone agrees with. Everyone agrees with what John is saying in these clips, and that's why actually I think David Eby is acting so irritable and making little snide jabs and looking weird at the camera, because he's trying to like almost implicate or like insinuate that whatever John is saying is bad. At the same time, nobody watching at home, especially undecided voters who care about affordability, crime, drugs, and all these things, that they're going to agree with him. So you can't tell these people that whatever John's saying isn't rational and common sense.
From the conservatives.
David Eby had just said and what David Eby just said. David Eby actually said the private sector has no place in housing, and that's just wrong.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did, Mr. Eby. The reality as well is this. We are going to cut the carbon tax. By getting rid of the carbon taxes in British Columbia, that will save $1,200 for a family today. And yet David Eby, he wants to actually double the carbon tax in his next term. That is what he has said he will do. And so this is the reality we're facing in British Columbia. That is more money just in the carbon tax saving alone than what he is proposing with his taxes. And for him to come out and say that $900 right away for the Rustad rebate in terms of the rent and in terms of mortgages, those are people, hardworking people in British Columbia that will get that benefit right away. And I wish we could bring the whole thing in, except that the fiscal mismanagement and a $14 billion deficit being proposed by David Eby will take away the future of people.
Mr. Eby, you seem to want to respond.
Him rolling his eyes at John there. Well, John, again, is saying things that nobody could disagree with. That right now the government is mismanaging things, the economy's bad, and people need their own tax dollars back in their pockets. People need their tax burden reduced. And Eby's like, John, you're just being so simplistic. It doesn't work. This doesn't work. This reminds me of another BC NDP candidate that at their local debates actually said he will talk slower to the Green Party candidate because she's from Alberta. And then it made a jab at her because he got the former Green Party leader's endorsement. Just obnoxious children are running for the BC NDP. And unfortunate to say, an obnoxious child is currently running the government. David Eby didn't even win a leadership race to become the premier. He was acclaimed. They bullied other BC NDP MLAs out of the race so that David Eby would win, because even the party radicals who preferred Eby at the top of the party, they knew he probably could not win, or at least win with confidence over a backbench MLA. That's how crappy David Eby is as a politician. And he has the audacity to roll his eyes at other people. This is what I said during the debate, and I had a lot of people liking this comment and viewing this comment because it was true. I said, the split screen on David Eby is so bad. He keeps staring at John Rustad and making really annoying snide jabs and adolescent interruptions. Just a terrible performance from someone who is supposed to be the premier. Rustad actually comes off like a real adult, and 21,000 people had seen that, and 1.1 thousand people liked that. That's way more than we're liking comments from people like Rob Shaw and other media pundit hacks who were pretending that Eby had a good performance and John Rustad, he just wasn't good. And the thing is, they couldn't explain why he was good. They would just say, he's a dud. He just wasn't interesting or whatever. Here's a good summation of the entire debate right here from Matt Wilson here, posting what the debate looked like. And it was like this. That's the image in your mind. Now, Furstenau would say something sanctimonious, and Eby would stare at her and jab at her. Rustad would say something rational, and Eby would stare at him and jab at him. And then when it was Eby's time to talk, it was just the idea that, times are tough out there, guys, but we can't listen to the person to my left or right because they don't have they don't have rational solutions. Blah, blah, blah. And then he would just natter on about how what the government's already done is good enough, and you should just be thankful that David Eby's in charge. It was bad through and through. Here's another clip of Sonia Furstenau if you want to know why I'm not talking about her all that much.
What they don't want to focus on are the lack of investments under the BC Liberals, the cutting back of services that got us here. And they don't want to focus on the fact that for the last 7 years, the NDP have not responded to this crisis in a way that actually averts it. I want us to have a war on poverty. I want us to address the social conditions that are creating these outcomes. I want us to make sure that in BC, we don't have Lamborghinis driving down a road where people are living on the streets. These are solvable problems. We just haven't had.
Yeah, it is a solvable problem that you can make everyone a little bit more poor so that nobody's driving a Lamborghini down a street where someone's homeless. We're all just walking because Furstenau destroyed the economy. That was a really telling clip from her too, because she even said the BC Liberals would cut a lot of the social services that got us here today. Yeah, we're poorer. We are worse off because government service spending does not actually create wealth. And obviously the BC Conservatives are not going to cut things like healthcare and basics that the U had for 100 years. They're going to cut wasteful programs that nobody needs, fake jobs, make work programs for government bureaucrats to be paid 6 figures to do nothing. Those are very easy jobs to cut. And first to note right there is just endorsing basically socialism straight out, that she doesn't actually care if poor people get better off. She just wants poor people and the wealthy to look more similar, because she doesn't want people like Chip Wilson having a nice house. That's her actual priority right there, if you know what she's saying. Her real goal is that she doesn't want the Lamborghinis on the road, not that she doesn't want the person being homeless. That's Sonia Furstenau's perspective. And also, most people in BC are homeless because of drugs and mental health issues. And so that is an issue that you'd have to solve through things like involuntary treatment. But she doesn't want to do that because she believes in the vision of safe supply and safe injection sites and homeless encampments. She's fine with it because it's egalitarian to just let people take over the streets, use any drugs they want, and have the government pay for that lifestyle. Oh, and so here's a clip between where Rusted was being attacked by Eby, and I think he had a really good response here.
You know, John Rustad and his candidates were providing donations to people who were protesting outside of hospitals, anti-vax convoy members. He's still an anti-vaxxer. He appeared in front of a group of people that called the so-called, you called it the so-called COVID vaccine. You said you wish you'd never been vaccinated. And then when someone said, do you think that public health professionals should be tried like Nazi war criminals? You said, well, we wouldn't do that in BC, but we would support an international effort to do that, John. It's embarrassing. You know, I wouldn't fire Bonnie Henry. I'm trying to hire you and your family a family doctor. We've connected 250,000 people to family doctors. We've got so much more to do. But if you think that we'll be safer in our province with someone who doesn't believe that vaccines are in charge of things?
Thank you very much, Sachi. The reality is I'm triple vaccinated. The reality is in British Columbia, I also promoted and supported people getting vaccinated, especially for seniors in our communities. I was supportive of that. However, I am not anti-vax. I am anti-mandate. I believe that people should have choice. It shouldn't be thrust upon them and forced upon them or coerced to be able to take a vaccine.
You never know which John Rustad's going to show up.
And then you have still David Eby making another jab there because he realized his attack just failed. Again, and Rustad is making interjections that actually make him look good. Like Eby keeps jabbering on as someone else is talking. Rustad just saying that's not true, and being the very neutrally toned adult makes people trust him. Eby looks like he has something to hide. Like his gish galloping, just constantly talking more and more and more is actually to hide the truth. It's what he's been doing constantly throughout this debate. Honestly, I probably don't even need to play any more clips. I would just say watch the full debate. But what happened here was the same thing that happened in Alberta in 2023. And I have my criticisms of Danielle Smith as a premier. But in the 2023 Alberta provincial election, Rachel Notley and the Alberta NDP said that Danielle Smith is crazy, she's erratic, she's radical. And then the debate happened and she's professional, She's very neutrally toned person. She's not hyper passionate about anything. She's very straightforward. And Rachel Notley looked stupid because of all the crazy rhetoric that led up to that debate, where you didn't notice anything that Rachel Notley was talking about in the way that Smith acted. And if anything, it made you think that Notley, rightfully so, was a liar. And this is the same type of situation. They keep saying John's a radical, John's crazy, all this stuff. And then John shows up as the most rational person in the room, who is the most professional and well-kept person there. And you have David Eby throwing his arms around, staring at people and attacking all the time, looking like the weirdo, looking like the erratic weirdo, while he's trying to pretend that the conservatives are crazy. I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of people in the next days who were undecided before that debate who are going to be siding with Rustad because they can't get over just how Eby cannot learn. He comes across like someone who already has all the answers, and he's just here to point out how everyone's dumber than he is. At the same time, everyone knows his record. His record sucks. He's a terrible premier. So why wouldn't you let John Rustad have a chance at becoming the premier? Unless you want Commandant Furstenau over there. I'm not sure about you or I, but I don't think BC needs the killing fields or whatever she was proposing there to shut down oil and gas and logging and send us all out to I don't know, just cultivate community gardens or whatever. The Green Party's utterly crazy. At least they're probably going to rip away some crazy NDP voters who think that the NDP hasn't gone far enough, at the same time that Rustad's taking all the common sense, rational voters who want something different. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. If you want to support the show, you can go in the description below or at the pinned comment and donate to the TNT Legal Fund. It keeps us afloat, being able to pay for our legal costs against this crazy defamation case where someone's suing us for defamation that they haven't been able to actually provide any evidence for. They're simply just saying we defamed them so that they can try and extract a fake apology and then pretend that everything negative that someone's ever said about them is false, because a lot of people said the exact same thing we said years before we said it, but he assumed that he could bully a 22-year-old into giving him an apology, but not the Globe and Mail, who first reported every single thing that we had said, and it's all accurate. Anyways, that's it for me. Have a good one, guys.